Coffee Break with Jimmy. Well, I just heard from the president, and the president says, we got to pass the Save America Act because we have fraudulent voting going on. We've known this for how many years? We knew that there was fraudulent voting went on when the 2020 election happened. There's no way that Biden could have won. There's no way he could have gotten 81 million votes. Don't know how that happened. The votes that Trump got, that was legitimate. But now they're saying that there's voter fraud with the Dominion voting machines, or they didn't say Dominion voting machine, but they said the voting machines. Okay, and they said there was fraud there that was done by China. They hacked into our election. This is something that's been going on for a number of years. We've known this. They said we didn't have any standing. They couldn't prove it. They didn't have any facts. But apparently the president's got facts now. He's turned it over to DOJ, FBI, whatever entities they need to turn it over to prove this. But this is ready. Apparently, they've been working on this for, probably since the president's been back in office. And now they've got the goods. So they're going to pass it on to the American people. They're going to, there was something else, too. And this is kind of par for the course. ABC News and CBS News, I believe it was ABC and CBS News, weren't going to televise the president's speech, okay? Because they don't want nobody to know about it. They don't want anybody to know about what's going on, the fraud is going on. The fraud has been going on, not just in voting, but fraud has been going on here for so long. They had a meeting the other day, and this is all, the Democrats is all behind all of this. I'm more confident of that now than ever. But they had, I think it was a Senate meeting. I believe it was a Senate. And they only had Republican senators there, and they were talking about fraud. They had Nick Shirley and a couple other investigative journalists there that were talking about fraud. But yet there was no Democrats there to listen to them. It was just Republicans. They don't want to know about the fraud because they're the big part of it, not the part of the fraud. I'm not saying that the Republicans don't commit some of that. Some Republicans are rhinos. Some Republicans that aren't right, and we know that. This happens in the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. This is something that's been going on for a number of years. But the fraud in the voting fraud has been going on for so long. And, they complain about it, and they don't do anything about it. They say the voting rolls, there's a lot of dead people still on the voting rolls. I mean, I just heard this last election, Kobe Bryant, well, no, it was a primary, but Kobe Bryant actually voted. We all know Kobe Bryant is gone. And I guess it was Yul Brynner was another one who voted, and he's dead. So anyway, this whole thing that's been going on, this fraud has been going on. It's all been done by the Democrats. Now it's the socialist Democrats. They can't show up for meetings. They don't want to show up for fraud meetings to talk to investigative journalists. I know Nick Shirley was there, and there's a couple other people there that was talking about it. But this has been going on for some time. Now I guess we have the facts. China has fraudulently tapped or our voting rolls. Probably North Korea. I don't know. They didn't say North Korea, but they did say China. But they said other countries also. So this is supposed to be turned over. All this information is going to be turned over to the DOJ, I believe the DOJ and the FBI tomorrow. Or they may have it already. They're going to turn it over. That's what they're going to do. They're going to turn it over to the American people. So we know more about it. But that's what Trump talked about tonight. And we have to pass the Save America Act. I know reconciliation, they say reconciliation can do that. I believe if they take off part of reconciliation where it has men can't play in women's sports, I mean, that's part of the bill. And I think the Supreme Court already weighed in on that, so they don't even have to have that in there as part of the bill. They can take that out and just go for the voting rights. And I think that'll pass with reconciliation. I know the filibuster is not going to pass because you got to have 60 votes for the Senate for it to pass. So they say that's not going to work. So reconciliation will, and maybe the filibuster will work. Maybe some Democrats will probably I know you got one in Fetterman that believes in it, and maybe you can get 10 or 15 other Democrats to vote on that and vote it in, because 85% of America, and that's 85% of all America, Democrat, Republican, Independent, they all want this. So how simple would it be to pass? And they need to do it. They got 4 more months until the midterms. And so it has to be done. And I believe that's what President Trump brought this up for today. And it's just, I believe now they have all the goods. They have all the facts. They have everything to back them up. Now they're not going to be able to say, well, you got no standing, or you got no facts, or this isn't, because we know this happened. And I've said it many, many times. I've said it in many, many podcasts. But one time I remember saying, because I'm a numbers guy, there's no way Biden could have got 81 million votes and Trump got 74. Not when the election before, Trump won by, was it 62 million to 64 million? Hillary Clinton got the popular vote, but Trump won the Electoral College. And now all of a sudden Biden get 81 million votes? Oh, that's BS. And that's BS. But I say revisit the 22nd Amendment, where because President Trump got ripped off for having two administrations in a row. He could have had the presidency 2 times in a row. 8 years straight. In 8 years, you can get some things done. You can get your policies and everything in place. And the way Trump moves, he moves at lightning speed. Not like any other president. Any other president doesn't do that. Has never done that. We ought to revisit the 22nd Amendment and see if President Trump can run again, if he even wants to. But he would be 82 years old. I think he's still vibrant. I think he would be still vibrant at 86 years old. I don't know. You think about it. But personally, I think he can get it done. So anyway, that's what he talked about tonight, and that's what I waited for. I waited to do a podcast because I wanted to hear what he had to say. But this socialist deal, we've talked about that. All this Democrat socialist, they want to get rid of the presidency. They want to get rid of the Senate. They want to no borders, wide open borders. This is what socialism has never worked. Look at any other country. My last podcast, I talked about Cuba and Venezuela and how those countries, and at one time, back before Castro got a hold of Cuba, Cuba was a vibrant country. They can do it again. They can do it again. I think Venezuela can too. Now they're well on their way. And South America, a lot of countries in South America, Chile, Argentina, there's other countries down there that are actually leaning the way of the United States, of our democracy, our ways here, capitalism, and it's working for them. And I don't know if Brazil's doing it or not. I think Brazil's on their way in doing this, but of course this all depends on who they got, or who's got them in their pocket, basically. And it looks like China may have them in their pocket, but that could change. The Western Hemisphere, I think that all can change. But we have to pass the Save America Act. It has to be passed. Voter ID, that's simple. And it's always been that way. Well, not has always been that way, but it was always supposed to be that way. And we have to get it back doing that again so we can have fair and legal votes. Anyhow, I'll talk about some more tomorrow when they got more of this information out. The president talked about it tonight, but we're going to see more of this stuff tomorrow. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about it, and we'll talk more tomorrow. Okay, this is Coffee Break with Jimmy. Please subscribe, press the like button, and share, and we'll see you next time on Coffee Break. Thanks.